into different positions, finding the end range, but not pushing beyond. We are just leaving the cloud.
Welcome to another video. The intro has already been laid out, but it's Tuesday, 28 degrees. I'm walking towards the dojo to meet up with Jori, where we will dive into the wonders of the human movement study exams. And the topic that we're gonna approach today is the acrobatics. And what is really interesting for me personally is that it really showed me how if you work on your weaknesses with a deliberate intent, there's a lot to discover. So for example, we're working with parent patterns, which are basically like a family tree in which other movements can emerge from. So it's a really essential pattern basically, that if you install it properly, it lays a foundation for other movements to be built upon. So for me it's the reverse hinge, which is a very difficult one, a parent pattern. But again, I really love this approach of trying to work with your weaknesses, because often I found that if you dive into the things that you're naturally not gifted at, you'll discover the most about yourself. And this is, I think, something Jori, Rich and I have a similarity in, that we like to take a route that is maybe not so easy but more challenging. And because it's more challenging, you learn what it means to deal with different levels of frustration, to see how you can mold frustration into a door that opens up instead of it being closed. And also, for example, what it means to be committed to something. And I think commitment means the ability to exclude everything else besides the thing that you're working on or want to develop. And I think for us it's really this movement practice, this idea of trying to research what the body is capable of, what the adaptations are from a micro or a macroscopic level, but also your internal state, neuroplasticity. So how can you use movement as a tool to develop oneself? And in our case, committing is diving into these wonders and the weaknesses that maybe emerge, these frustration points. So very interested what will happen today with the acros, and if we'll manage to unlock new hidden pathways. And if not, it was just a beautiful session. So see you in a bit, and let's see what happens. Ciao.
Is this Michael Jackson? Is it Tim Kousters?
So this is what a acro session examination can lead into. When the curiosity of a child is sparked, then you're climbing your way. So I've recently moved to another not city but village. Feels like a village. And I found this gem literally in the forest. And one of the first things I've actually been doing ever since I moved is to create a map of the environment and all the possibilities
that surround me, and I'll explain how I was inspired to do this by a guy called Forencich, who wrote the book A Beautiful Practice. So I'm sitting here in the forest and preparing for, or actually going through the examination. And I just quickly want to share a very important and influential idea, which is the idea of a long body. It's an idea I got from a talk by Forencich, and it really expanded my mental construct of what a body is and what shaping influences are present or available for you to use in how you are constructing your nervous system and how you are having a human experience. So allow me to explain. As soon as I mention the word body, it creates or triggers a network of associations, right? You might think about the body as a collection of muscles. You might see different shapes of a body. You might have ideas of how a body should be moving. You might see a body in a forest or in a city. You might see a body that is drawn or a body that is a very clear, vivid picture. So your idea of a body is created by a collection of references, experiences, and your cultural upbringing. And as soon as you start realizing that your body is a mental construct, which means that it is constructed, you also start understanding that it could also be something very differently than what you think it is. Now, what we know from anthropology is that different cultures have very different ideas of what a body is and where the body ends. And Forencich makes a beautiful point on how certain cultures actually perceive the body as something that extends beyond the surface of their skin. And he makes a differentiation between a short body, which ends at the skin, and then the long body, which extends beyond the skin. Because what you know from direct experience is that you are constantly interacting with your environment, right? You go to a forest, you have a different state, internal state, and a different physical experience because there's a different terrain, there are branches, right? There are trees, you hear different sounds, you smell different fragrances than when you go to a city, which is predominantly flat, with a lot of sounds, a lot of people walking in straight lines. So the fact that you are in one environment or the other already has a shaping effect, right? It's almost like all your environments are like invisible hands that are constantly shaping you. But to continue with the point, so this idea of the long body is that all the environments that you are in, but also the groups of people that you are in, are extensions of you. So they're almost like external organs. So if I start spending significantly more time indoors versus outdoors, I will have a very different experience, both internally, but I will also be shaped very differently, right? So literally, the quality or the type of long body I have has an effect on my short body. And my short body can have an effect on my long body, right? Because I can also move to different areas. So I can go to the forest and I can tell myself, or I can experience it as a very pleasant thing. So I can tell myself, okay, I want this to be part of my long body, which means if I have 24 hours a day, I want to spend more time connecting to this external organ. So to make it very practical, your idea of a body is a mental construct. A short body ends at the surface of your skin, but a long body extends beyond the surface of your skin into everything around you. So where you spend your time determines what your long body actually is. So you are inside of a bigger body. A body of people, body of organizations, the city as a body, which is your long body. So if you want to develop yourself, it's important to not just develop your short body, but to also start creating the connection to the long body. Or another example, which sometimes makes it click a little bit more quickly, is if you look at what you can do and what you can put into the body. So you can add chemical nutrition, right? So let's say you want to improve your diet and you start eating better food. So you start eating, for example, just calling out something, you start eating unprocessed foods like blueberries, you start eating salads, you start eating specific types of protein, and you start avoiding all the ultra processed foods. Then if you look at your mechanical nutrition, you start doing specific workouts. So maybe you're instead of just sitting still all day on a chair, you go for a walk, you go for a run, you do some hanging, you do some jumping, you do some creative work, you ride your bike, etc. But then on top of that, you also want to make sure that those things happen in different environments. So your environment as a nutrient. And every environment has a very different nutrient profile. This forest, for example, has very different nutrients than the city. The city has very different nutrients than a beach. So mechanical nutrition, chemical nutrition, and the environment as a nutrient. You have your short body and you have your long body. And when you develop your long body, in addition to your short body, they will start to create a very powerful synergy. And the changes you wish to consolidate will not happen by accident, they will happen by default.
Oh shit! Morning! Everybody present! Present!
5 in the morning, guys.
Friday intensive.
You're late.
You practice on 5, alright?
We've got a couple more in the back. Everybody's excited for what's ahead of us.
What's ahead
Right?
of us?
What's ahead of us, people? Where are we headed?
What is above us?
It's the sky.
This is the sun.
And it's Hiddenbody.
So the weight has to transit a little bit over the body. If you stay back, you're gonna use the weight of the body. And the legs really kick it back when you do it. So,
Where?
Funhouse itself. It's a party that's happening over here.
Party.
Nice, Ivy, keep going. You take 6 steps to the left. Rotate the other direction. Section also up now. Manipulate my partner, but I want to hold it so that he can go for the movement. Then we'll do 25 repetitions walking forwards. Again, I'm just here to facilitate my partner, hip movements, taking steps until we complete it with 25 repetitions. You can go back to freestanding position. This is the least amount of effort. This is how I just spent my entire Sunday. practicing. It's not about the practice, it's about the practice. So going from different techniques, starting very kind of more subtle and blending. Of course, I'm not a painter, but it was just a very interesting experiment. After hours of painting, we're going to place this Marshall into the closet. Handmade, not handmade, designed by Gita.
This is fair food.
And painted by moi.